Rabbi Daniel Lapin is my guest today to tell us the truth about money. We all just assume we know what money is, but do we really know? What's the real reason some people are rich and some people are poor? For example, why are Jews disproportionately rich in almost all countries? Do they cheat their way up? Are they just lucky? Did they learn how to make money because of natural selection? What can you do to become wealthy and reach your real money potential? These are all the things we're going to dig into in today's episode of the Invest Diva Movement. If you have not already, make sure to watch my previous discussion interview with Rabbi Daniel Lapin, where we discussed his book, Thou Shalt Prosper, and make sure to subscribe to our channel too. My name is Kiana Danial. I'm the founder of the Invest Diva Movement, a tribe of proactive moms who want to create a better life for their kids too. We don't rely on our husbands, the bank, or money managers to determine our financial future. In fact, we do the exact opposite. We take control of our money because our financial independence is bigger than just us. It's for our kids and their children to come. We're different because we're fighting against the boys on Wall Street. We don't want our money locked up in a 401k, and we're not going to let it sit in the bank and lose its worth. So with that, let's go say hi to Rabbi Daniel Lapin and find out the truth about money, and let's get the movement going forward. Thank you so much for being on the show. And last time we were on the show, we talked about your book, Thou Shalt Prosper. And you mentioned at the beginning that you actually, the reason why you wrote this book was because people kept asking you why Jewish people are more successful and more financially free. And at the beginning, you were actually feeling a little bit guilty about that. And you had to restore your evaluation of how you view money and why you were feeling guilty about it. And then you went on and wrote this book. So I think the burning question is, are Jewish people more successful? And why is it? Is it like racial? Is it like in the blood? I mean, as a fellow Jew, I mean, I want to believe in I don't know, we're something special, but is that true?
Look, the reality is that if you are honest about it, you cannot escape the conclusion that Jews are disproportionately good with money. Are there poor Jews? Of course there are. But in terms of Jewish numbers, are more of us financially affluent than any other group? Yes, of course we are. There's no question about it. And one would have to be a blind immigrant from outer Mongolia to dispute that simple fact. And what's more, not only is it true in the United States of America today, but it's true in every country in which Jews live. And not only is it true anywhere at the present time, it's also been true throughout history. Always.
Why is that?
And the reason for that is because, look, at its most basic level, we have to ask ourselves, why is it that amateur athletes today run the 4-minute mile routinely? But until May 1953, nobody had done it until the very first man to run a 4-minute mile was Roger Bannister. Now, why is it that so many people do it today? And the answer is because now people believe that it can be done. The bottom line is that nobody can succeed at any activity that deep inside one's heart one feels to be morally reprehensible. If you are a decent human being and you believe that making money is basically taking money from other people, which, by the way, is a very, very deeply implanted and widespread belief. If you believe that there's something uncomfortable about making money, then you're never going to be good at it. You are forever condemning yourself to poverty. There's no question about it, because nobody can succeed at something that embarrasses them internally. And that's how it is with the the lovely young girl who babysat for us a few weeks ago. We came home after a delightful evening out, and we said to her, how much do we owe you? And do you know what she did? Her eyes went down to the carpet like this, and she sort of shuffled uncomfortably, and her toe started making patterns, and she just was awkward. She was uncomfortable telling us how much she wanted from us. Why? Because she had been indoctrinated into this, I can only call it a tragically sick and diseased way of thinking, that somehow she's hurting us by taking the money. And so I tried to help her. I said, well, it was 2.5 hours, and didn't we settle on a certain amount per hour? And she said, in these words, she said, would $8 an hour be okay? And I said, no, absolutely wouldn't be okay. But $12 an hour would be okay. And it took her a second to register what I was saying. And I was saying, look, I want to be able to phone you next time. You did such a great job. I want to be able to phone you next time we want to go out. And what's more, I want you to be happy to accept. This is a transaction. I promise you, I am not paying you more than I think you're worth. To me, you're worth at least $12 an hour. And I was hoping that that she not only got the $30, but I was hoping she also got something of an insight into economic interactions between human beings.
That is such a fascinating thing. And I feel like every time, like every step that I've personally taken in my life, like for me, when I was a college student, I don't know, $1,000 was like, oh my God, such a huge deal. Like, oh my God, if I make $1,000 per week, it's going to be crazy. And then when you make it, and now like at this and like 15 years later, I look at it, I'm like, wow, that was really my limit. Because that was my limit, that was the amount that I was getting paid. And now because my limit is like, oh my God, if I make this amount, that is exactly the amount that I'm getting paid, the amount that I feel that I am worth. And it really, I have been hardworking throughout my life. And the only difference throughout this journey has been my belief in myself into how much I am worth. And that has been made all the difference in how much I get paid.
Well, you see, here's the thing. The only way to determine what you're worth is in an interaction with another person. Because we all make the mistake on the other side of my teenage babysitter. The mistake we all make is that we all think we're underpaid. For instance, I spoke with a teacher on my show a little while ago. A teacher called in and we were having a conversation. And this middle school teacher said, you know, obviously I'm underpaid. Mm-hmm. And I jumped on that and I said, well, wait a moment. What's so obvious about it? She said, do you know how important the work I do is for the next generation? I said, granting you that, but we were not talking about an ephemeral idea like the worth to the next generation. We're talking about you being underpaid. She said, well, I am. I said, well, I have a perfect solution for you. And she was interested. She said, what would that be? I said, quit. Quit immediately from this exploitative employer who is paying you less than you're worth. Leave right now and go where you will be paid more. And she said, well, there's nowhere I can be paid more. And I said, let your ears hear what your mouth has just said. You've just told me that you are being paid what you're worth.
So what do you recommend? How do you figure this out? Because, of course, I see this tendency a little bit more with women who feel they are, I mean, there is this thing going on that women are like, okay, you are underpaid, and they're trying to get there. But I do feel like at the same time that women don't believe in themselves as much as men do, at least is what I see. And like if I do the same exact job as my male counterpart, I still feel like, should I really ask that much money? And that is an internal struggle for me. So where is the balance? How can we find the balance? And then, I mean, there's of course the other side of things that the guy is like, oh, I'm going to charge you like $500,000 to like, I don't know, fix your computer. Like, obviously that is insane. So how do you find the balance?
Yeah. I explain that in the book, of course. I do discuss, and again, it has to do with why Jewish people tend to have done well. And that is because intuitively, and certainly based on our appreciation of ancient Jewish wisdom, we don't think in terms of how much money can I get from you. We think in terms of how can I best serve you. We see service to other people as being almost equivalent to service to God. And in fact, we know and study the many verses all the time where, in fact, the same word in Scripture is used for worshiping God and taking care of the needs of other people. I think it's not an accident that we even use the same word service for customer service and worship service. In other words, we Jews have a deep conviction that by taking care of God's other children, we are making God happy. Now, taking care of God's other children is just another way of saying taking care of business, right? Because whatever it is you're doing, you are serving a customer or a client or an employer. There is somebody who is benefiting by what you are doing for them. And so when that is firmly implanted, it becomes second nature. And again, in the book, I instruct readers how to imbibe this quality, because how you come across to other people is absolutely crucial in this. And it's something you don't have conscious control over, but you do have subconscious control over. And there are ways to engineer your subconscious for that purpose.
So what you just said, I feel like could be a little bit polarizing, because there is this belief in the society that Jews are successful because they either cheat or they have this secret society that everybody help each other out.
Yes,
And
that's right.
like really a view of, from an outsider, I feel like, I mean, I grew up in Iran. I went to school pretending I'm Muslim. So I actually was hearing this, like my teachers who loved me, who didn't know I was Jewish, they would say, oh, like Jews are horrible. They look horrible. They smell horrible. They do this, they do that. So how do you address that? Is this true? Like, do we cheat actually to get ahead? Like, and I know that, well, I know the answer because you've actually done the research on this. And what I really loved about what you said is that if we cheat to get ahead, nobody will want to do business with us. And I'm like, oh, that's true. But like, how do you address this myth in the society, which is very widespread?
I don't try and address it in society. Life is too short to embark on quixotic undertakings with no chance of success. Antisemitism has been around since long before you grew up in Iran and long before I grew up in South Africa. So as I say, life is just too short to try and change people's minds. My goal is to make as many people happy as I possibly can and thereby earn a lot of money. And in so doing, I'm going to leave everyone with whom I interact feeling warm and positive about doing business with a Jew. And I feel that that is absolutely by far and away the most effective means at my disposal. I'm just one ordinary human being. I'm not going to change worldwide attitudes that have been around for centuries. So I don't have any concern in that. But all I have is the concern of helping people understand that making money is a dignified, moral, and upright occupation. It is having the goal and the aspiration to make more money is really another way of saying having the goals and the aspirations of pleasing other human beings, doing my best to improve their lives.
That is very powerful. And the funny thing is, the moment when you first get started with any business or investing, well, the goal is like, oh, okay, I want to just like pay a paycheck, I want to pay rent. But it's not until you actually think about the why. And for me, it was the same thing. It was like, why am I even doing this? Like at this point, like my husband works, and like, why am I even doing this? And it wasn't until I was like, I really freaking love it when I see my students succeed, and I love it, and they feel it. And when I switched that focus, when I switched my focus from the customers that I hated, but they were paying me money and it was like making me miserable, and I actually didn't even want that money. But then I focused from like being really in love and passionate about the moms, and I'm like, oh my God, like look at her, like she's just so confident, she's rocking it, she's invested, she's talking about stocks, whereas like a year ago she's like, oh, money, da, da. So that is what is giving me the reason, and my business has never been greater, even though I'm saying no to the people who I originally were working with, and they were like finding me, and it was different. So it's super interesting that once you switch that, once you stop thinking about getting rich and getting the money, that the money actually just comes in, right?
That's exactly right. We don't at all. In other words, I sometimes laughingly say that Jews do not pray, oh, please, God, send me $500 so I can pay the rent this month. What we do say is, please, God, open my eyes so I can find more people who could benefit from my services. That's all I have to do. The money will flow automatically, as you rightly said.
That's like the base. That should be the basic of marketing education. Like,
no, that
should be the marketing.
This is why the book is valuable. And like you, my second or third biggest thrill in life is actually receiving fan mail from people whose lives were turned around. I could tell you the most extraordinary stories. I don't think it fits into what you and I want to talk about, but I've got the most amazing stories. People have written to me about how they have deployed the 10 principles of the book, Thou Shalt Prosper, and utterly transformed their economic lives. And the great thing is that when you've transformed your economic life, you've also transformed your social life.
I cannot actually wait to get into the 10 principles. Today, this is all the time that we had. So next time, viewers at home, the next session with Rabbi Daniel Lapin is going to be about the 10 principles, the 10 commandments to making money. So make sure that you tune in and make sure that you're subscribed so you do not miss on the next episode.
I look forward to being back.
Thank you so much.
Da, da, da.